Good afternoon, everyone. Come on, y'all got to do better than that. Good afternoon, everyone. There you go. There you go. So welcome to our session here on a deep dive into the importance of measurement. My name is Kerel Cooper, President of Advertising at Group Black. I'm going to pass it off to my panelists here to introduce themselves. But before I do, I just want to say that we did not color coordinate here. It just happened this way.
The vibe.
Yeah, you go.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm the Senior Director of Product Policy at DoubleVerify.
And hi, I'm Charlene Polite Corley. I'm VP of Diverse Insights and Partnerships at Nielsen.
All right. Thank you both for, again, joining me today. Super excited about this conversation for a number of reasons. But one of the main ones is, as we were programming content on this stage yesterday, and we had a lot of folks from agencies and brand marketers on stage, we heard a theme over and over again, which is that figuring out measurement is key to unlocking more dollars for diverse-owned media, right? And so I want to jump right into the first question, and Charlene, I'll start with you.
Sure.
In terms of your work at Nielsen, what are you all doing to help build out tools for marketers and diverse-owned media companies?
Yeah, thanks so much for the question. And again, centering this really important topic. Part of one of the biggest initiatives that I've had since taking on this role is how can we start to look at the measurement that we do across the industry from the lens of diverse ownership. When Nielsen set out to measure audiences in the marketplace, that was not really a consideration, so we literally had to go in and build it. So we spent a lot of 2021 trying to figure out what that looked like. And so last year we put out a report in the traditional media space, broadcast, television, and radio, just to sum up the power of diverse-owned media in that space, and the power of Black radio, the power of Black television, and what that delivers for marketers and brands. What we found is a lot of it really is the chicken and the egg scenario. So we tried to continue to remove barriers from that. Is there a piece of pro bono consulting that we can give to an owner? Is there a policy that we can change internally that increases access? Mm-hmm. Can we price and package things in a way that make it accessible for owners who we know face some systemic barriers in this business and just in doing business in general? And so we've really tried to move with purpose and urgency in order to kind of change the way that we do things. So in the digital space in particular, like making access to a certain number of impressions on a campaign at no cost. Policy changes like that we kind of have in our control that can help give us some momentum. And in the meantime, continue to hopefully see the market with insights that show the value of doing the business, but we both sides have to meet in the middle. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah, lots of great work going on.
Gotcha. I'm going to come back to you in a second on the policy statement there.
Yeah.
But Stephanie, same question to you in terms of the work that you're doing at DoubleVerify to put the right tools in the hands of publishers and marketers as it relates to measurement.
Yeah, so for us, we really wanted to ground the work that we're doing in partnerships, and that's why we were so excited to partner with Group Black, because we wanted to find solutions that would be grounded in kind of listening to and learning together and working together to figure out what to do and how to identify some quick wins for everyone, and also how to figure out what a continued collaboration looks like and how to commit to doing that in an ongoing way. So off the back of the partnership that we've built, we've put out these best practices together, and that's something that we are advocating for our clients when they're thinking about their values-based marketing approaches and techniques. This is something that we're passionately advocating for, and I think beyond that, we really see the partnership that we started with you a year ago as a foundation, and we want it to be something that we can open up and see even more returns for. So we want to use exactly that foundation. We've opened up the program to more diverse partners to see who else wants to get involved, what else can we do together, whether it's technical support, whether it's advocacy and education, or anything else, research. We're open to figuring out what those next steps look like, and yeah, really building it on a foundation of partnership.
Gotcha. And I'll stay with you for the next question, Stephanie. The tools, I think, is one thing, right? And making sure diverse-owned media companies, marketers have the right tools to measure and talk about the successes that they're having. But outside of the tools, are there other challenges that you see in the marketplace today?
So, lots of challenges. And I think, but there are some things that, I want to balance the challenges with things that people can do right now.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I think, we came up with 5 best practices.
Right.
There are 4 of those, which are things that, anyone using a measurement solution can kind of just do tomorrow, this week, in the coming weeks, to start to do things differently. And I think, the 5th one is really, the 5th best practice is, again, partnership. And I think that's one of the real challenges, because one of the things that I think we all hear a lot is, give me that silver bullet solution,
Yes.
give me that quick fix. And, yes, there are some quick wins that we can achieve, but for there to be real, meaningful solutions that have, more impact, we need deeper partnerships. We need things that take more time to figure out together, and we don't necessarily all even know what those look like yet. So having everyone really commit the time and the resources to being able to make that progress is, I think, the best way to tackle that challenge.
Right. I'll ask you the same question.
Yeah, I will just add on that really, I think it's about the intention in the work. Obviously, we're all in business, and so these owners obviously can deliver things that help your business, but the intention on how we approach that work is a big part of it, right? And so I think we kind of all rush to do something in 2020, but it's not just about reaching a community or maxing out a spend. The intent behind it is, okay, we want to drive equitable solutions, and if that's what's driving you, you can't really do that without partnership, without meeting at the table and talking to someone, understanding their business. But oh, by the way, understand especially when it comes to Black-owned media, understand the unique corner of the culture that they serve, that they're experts in. We have a lot of talk about, just the tonnage, right? And we want to go and get as many impressions as possible, of course. But there are some of those intangible things that come with our culture that I think those, for me, are some of the most powerful metrics that I think show up, is when we can start to really capture, like, I'm an expert in this segment of Black culture, and also here are all the other impacts for your brand or your campaign when you work with us and you engage in our audience in a really authentic way. But it starts with intention, and it really comes down to partnership.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. One area where I would personally love to see, marketers take, a step forward is talking about the successes that they're having, right?
Yeah.
If you go back a couple of years ago, you had a lot of agencies and brands pledge to spend money with Black-owned media, diverse-owned media companies. Some have done that, some have not, right? The ones that have done that, there are definitely success stories in that, right?
Yes.
Success stories in terms of campaign performance, success stories in terms of more foot traffic, right? And other ways in which brands measure success. And so I would love to hear from both of you, in your conversations with marketers, right? Why aren't they telling more success stories publicly?
I'm not really sure the answer to that one, like where the hesitation comes from, other than everything is moving so quickly that, and again, this goes back to the way we've always done business is you don't just rush out there and talk about how successful it was.
Right.
But in this area of the business, that's really critical.
Right, especially when you talk about the collaboration that needs to happen, right?
Exactly. And so I think maybe it's just a piece of, it's the way we've always done it, and people don't understand maybe that when we talk about being a good partner or talking about doing this work with intention, we've really got to close the loop, because it matters more to your business that my colleagues who are decision makers and maybe don't look like you or frequent the content that you're putting out or come from that community need to hear that, oh my gosh, we did double what we thought, or we got X, Y, and Z metric over and above what we expected, or maybe we need to work on this wasn't the right measure of success. I think it's just a piece of closing the loop that we maybe need to just be more aware of how much of an impact that can have on owners when we share that with the marketplace, and maybe that practice just isn't there yet. But I think it's also about, like, maybe folks don't want to be first. Like, hey, let's do the case study. Let's publish the work. Let's talk about what happened. And so hopefully we'll continue to see more of that.
Gotcha. And Stephanie, I know obviously DoubleVerify, work with a lot of brand marketers. Would love to hear your thoughts on this as well too.
So it's a little hard for me to speak to exactly, why we're missing that. I think, want to echo a lot of what you said. I think we obviously are very keen to talk about. We're also very keen to work with anyone that wants to as well. And I think as well as on the marketer side, we're also really keen to support on the publisher side. I know one of the things we spoke about is, and it goes actually to what you were saying as well, is that actually a lot of the impact, there are a lot of smaller publishers to whom even small changes that you can make, small things that you can do are making a really, really big impact.
Yeah.
And actually, I'd also love to hear some more of those stories out there as well.
Yeah.
Because those things can be amazing. They can really change the course of what a publisher can achieve. And it's all of those small publishers that also matter as well and make a difference. So we're really hoping that we can, and I know it's something we've spoken a little bit about as well, but how can we find a way to bring those stories more to the forefront and bring those joint successes and collaborations to the forefront so everyone can see them and hear about, how is that impacting things.
And let me just add a data point, if we have any brand marketers in the audience, to hopefully help encourage them that the work that we did at Nielsen also said the audience really wants to hear about it.
Right.
So when we talk to Black audiences, 8 out of 10 are saying it really matters to them to seek out diverse-owned media and diverse creators, but also that they really value the brands that do that as well. So they're more likely to do business with a brand that's seen as supporting their community. And so when you're talking to me about how you prioritize, doing this work with owners in my community, that goes a long way with actually interacting and engaging the consumer base you're trying to reach. So again, just since we're all here talking about the measurement, I was like, there's some data actually that says that's a really good thing for you to do. If doing the right thing isn't enough, it also might be really good business.
Right. And speaking of data points, so one of the ways in which Group Black and DoubleVerify collaborated was looking at brand safety challenges that impact Black-owned media, diverse-owned media companies. And one of the studies that we did is we took about 10 campaigns that were running across Group Black that are also clients of DoubleVerify, and we looked at some of the sort of, call it legacy buying practices that were set up. So for example, blocking at the domain level versus going down to the page level. And when we worked with these advertisers to make these slight adjustments to campaigns that impact brand safety, we saw about 15% more inventory open up for marketers to purchase, right? And so I want to hear, Stephanie, from your side, what has been the reaction to that? Have you had, I know you've mentioned other publishers have come to you and wanted to do something similar. Curious about the reaction from the publisher side, but also if there's been any reaction from the marketer side as well too.
I think the reaction's been great.
Yeah.
People just want to know, how do I get involved? How do I make sure that I'm doing all of the right things? Tell me what I can do. There's a lot of enthusiasm, I think, and it goes back to one of those challenges as well. There are so many of those things we identified in the best practices. They don't necessarily always sound like the most exciting or the most advanced technical things that you might be able to do, but actually those are the things that make the difference.
Yeah, move the needle.
And that's why at least I was so keen to base what we did on research and figure out let's not just wave a wand around and talk in words about all these fancy things that we can do, but let's actually find out what are the things that need to be done, big or small, and help people find a way to do them. So I think there's been great reception for, everyone I think has good intentions. There's a lot of good intention out there, and people really do want to find what they need to do. So it's now just continuing with getting that into action. And then also, maybe this is a little bit of me, and maybe also I think at DV, how do we continue to get better? Let's not just be really complacent, like, oh, well done, we'll pat ourselves on the back, but I'm already wanting to figure out like where do we take it from here? What's the next thing that we can do?
For any marketers that are out there listening right now, what advice would you give them as it relates to looking at their buying practices and opening up more inventory, especially when working with Black-owned media?
So I think, you know, it's no secret, I think, for anyone that there have been some legacy buying practices around using keywords without due care and attention. And I think that's, again, one of those things where everyone sort of nods their head and says, yeah, I know. But it really is important. You know, one of the other things that we found with our research together is that if you were to use keywords like Black Lives or Obama, you know, instead of using content categories, you know, 28.6% of that content is just lifestyle content. It has nothing to do with politics. It has nothing to do with any of the traditional unsuitable content categories. You know, making sure that you're using content categories is really important. Making sure that if you are using keywords, you have a really robust practice around coming back to them, checking them, not having these long, unwieldy lists that are impossible to navigate. And, you know, beyond just some of those, you know, there are things that you can think about all the time. You know, if you have racism on a keywords list or anti-Semitism on a keywords list, you know, you're potentially going to, it's not just the lifestyle content you're going to miss out on, but there's also, you know, some potentially really important content that your brand might want to support about, you know, how do we combat racism, or, you know, amazing stories that people are telling out there that you know, you're going to miss out on. And that publishers then also, you know, miss out. And I think one of the other things that we're sort of, you know, now starting to talk to really sophisticated marketers about when it comes to values-based marketing is also thinking on a campaign level, because it's not necessarily always right for every campaign to, you know, to be with, you know, to be alongside that content. Maybe it doesn't make sense. Maybe it's not sensitive. Maybe it's not, you know, it's not the right place. But there are other campaigns where it really does make sense. So starting to think on that campaign level as well is something that we are, you know, we're starting to talk to a lot of our clients about.
Love it, love it. And Charlene, we also collaborated earlier this year on a Black Creator report, which really looked at sort of the opportunity that exists for marketers to engage with and work with Black creators, right? And proving out that in many cases, Black creators are generating just as much, if not higher, media value across a number of different categories than their non-Black counterparts, right? And so when we speak about sort of, you know, measurement and research, right? Can you speak to the importance and the opportunity there that exists for marketers in engaging with and working with Black creators?
100%. Yeah, I'm so proud of that work, and I love the partnership that you all did together as well with tangible, like you said, action items. Because part of how we came to the table too was we talk about the pay gap for Black creators, right? And so you're facing a pay gap, I think it was like 30 or 35% was the most recent estimate. Then you've got these, you know, just practices that just say, oh, anything with these words, we just don't touch. So it's like I've got less opportunity to break through from a keywords perspective, just because that's the way the machine is designed. And then if I do break through, I'm facing a lower dollar value. Even though my engagement, even though y'all took my choreography and did it and then got paid, you know, so it's like you're using all of the things that have kind of innovated from this culture, but the compensation doesn't match that level of value. And so for us to collaborate with the research to show the engagement is the same or more. And these very, you know, categories like fashion and lifestyle content, to your point, where there's a ton of engagement and it's over-indexing with, not everybody's a macro influencer. I think we looked at folks with 2,000 or more followers, if I remember the methodology, and they, for those of comparable size, were delivering or out-delivering as far as who they're bringing in, the quality of audience that they're bringing in, what it would cost a brand to go out and just buy that kind of engagement. They're delivering, you know, Black creators are delivering that value day in and day out. And so I think, again, it goes back to the spirit of partnership and the intention to say, this is what we're trying to solve. We really want to be a part of, you know, the Black consumer lifestyle, and in there, you know, when you log on, I want you to see me. But that means that, you know, if my community is talking about something tough, that you have the right campaign, that you're not afraid to join me in that conversation. Yeah. that if we're in a joyful moment, that you're not afraid to join me in that conversation or in that dance move or whatever the case. And so I think, again, it's that partnership and intention. We have metrics that can actually support you and validate that approach. It feels a little different. It might be a little bit scary, but there are metrics out there, like you said, the importance of measurement is say, well, here's how we're going to define success, and here's how we're going to meet it. So I'm very proud to collab with y'all on that.
Awesome. I'd love to open it up to the audience for some questions. I think is there a mic going around? Oh. Questions, anyone?
Hopefully you can see.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
They don't bite.
Oh, we got one right behind
Yeah,
you.
all right.
Hi, my name's Chloe. I work at Magna Global. Charlene, you had mentioned that a lot of the content, specifically with Black-owned media, it really sometimes measurement misses out on the resonance of that content. My question is, when we're looking at working with either creators or content around like HBCUs or what have you, yes. Can you talk about some of the measurement opportunities that currently exist for like pre-roll content? So for perspective, if I'm working with a brand and I'm trying to explain the significance of HBCU homecoming for a custom content series that I may be working with.
I'm literally flying to FAMU next weekend. So
Oh, really? Yeah, okay, so you get it. So my question is like, how can I tell that story if they don't necessarily know the impact before that series actually takes place? Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, as happenstance would have it, you're sitting next to our lead of brand impact at Nielsen. So part of that, again, the really fun stuff is to do exactly what you're saying. For somebody who may not be a part of HBCU culture, for example, how can we get insight and metrics? I have a report I can send you, I think, with a couple of points. But how can we paint that picture so that you understand, like, sure, if you look pure numbers, I think it's like maybe 2% of all college students attend a HBCU. If you look in the Black community, if you look in the influence of culture, or why Taylor Swift has a marching band behind her in a couple of concerts ago, all of that is coming from that culture. Or why Beyonce is at Coachella doing her thing. So we definitely add in the qualitative perspective to help paint a picture. So going in markets where you might have a HBCU and like just the way that market looks different for engaging for Black consumers, voting engagement, owning a second home. So these are all metrics that we have internally that I actually have some slides that I will send you after to help paint a picture, but it really is about, again, how can we use data and measurement to say don't just take my word for it. Don't just take my alumni association word for it. We literally have metrics that show you that this is worth investing in and what it can deliver for your brand. Yeah. Thanks for the work.
Hi, I'm Bob Ingram from Digital Media. I want to commend Group Black for bringing this group together. It just hasn't been often. I deal with you guys all the time, virtual calls, email, that sort of thing, but it's good that we're in a period now where we can talk and communicate with each other. I've had a significant amount of dealing with DoubleVerify, particularly on buys and campaigns when you bid on them that include you. But then once you get involved, sometimes the agency isn't on top of their job in terms of the validation and things. And then Nielsen has been incredible too. I want to talk about a certain vertical, big pharma, which is highly regulated and a challenge sometimes, particularly with keywords, and then with lists with an organization like mine where we have to go out and bring together a number of different groups to get the numbers that matter to the brands. So my question is, what are you doing in the case of pharma, for instance, that already the key measurement for pharma is ROI on Black and brown populations who are sicker often, who many times, even with rare diseases that they over-index in, there's a significant return on investment. Sickle cell, I think the average patient with sickle cell is like $600,000-$700,000 a year. So I'd like to know what, if anything, you guys are doing in that specific vertical.
Do you have anything you want to jump in on? Yes, it is challenging, but I think it goes back to what you were saying about one, I would look at, is it always appropriate? So there's a lot of regulation, I think, for a reason when it comes to pharma, but how much of that is just legacy, the way we do business? I haven't started anything in particular in my work around the pharma vertical, but I know we actually do have a large set of healthcare metrics where we are talking to consumers around, you know, the kind of doctors they're seeing and where they're going actually to fill prescriptions versus buy groceries. So I think, again, using data to say you need to be thinking about Black consumers maybe in a different way and meeting them where they're at. That I think might be a way in to help change some of the things that might be a barrier to doing business with Black-owned media. Especially when it comes to, if you think about all of the money that was spent around like COVID awareness, right? Or you know, getting a vaccine or taking care of yourself in that regard, you might need different partners that have a different level of trust in a community when it comes to healthcare. And so that's the biggest way that we think about it, I think, in my work, is how you might want to approach speaking to diverse communities a little bit differently when it comes to their health. So sorry, I don't have a direct campaign answer with that one.
Yeah, and I can add a little bit of some of the things that we're starting to do on a vertical by vertical basis. We just put out, I think it was a couple of months ago now, some research about you know, how when consumers look at different content, they think about what kind of, you know, which industry vertical is the ad coming from, and how does that affect their reaction to what they think is appropriate or not. And you know, we're also, it goes to that point of really thinking specifically about what is my brand, what is, you know, what works for me, rather than a one size fits all you know, approach, and really thinking about, well, how will audiences think about this in the context of the content, but also in the context of, you know, what my brand is. And that could be really different, especially for something like pharma. So we've already started to do some research there. And I think we're going to, you know, continue to be, you know, thinking about that because it's another way to get, you know, our clients to really think about, you know, tailoring things so that they, you know, so that they perform better.
Yeah, if I can add to that, I think, you know, the trust factor and who's delivering the message is super important. One of the stats that I love that we have in our audio presentation is that 78% of Black podcast listeners are more open to buying a product that they hear a Black host talk about, right? So I think that's important too, that sort of trust and authenticity factor as well.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Kari from CMI Media Group. My question is that there's been a lot of studies, I think, over the past few years about how there is a challenge in between actually reaching diverse audiences and especially when it comes to third-party audiences. There's usually a drop-off when it comes to diverse audiences, whether it's Hispanic, Asian, or Black. What's your advice, I think, especially as we're going into more data loss, more signal loss for advertisers from that perspective?
I keep going first. Are you good with
No,
that?
no,
Okay.
I want you to go first.
Okay.
We had a conversation where you already had a really good answer to this exact question.
Okay,
so.
well, my baby brain doesn't remember it now, but hopefully. No, I think this is why it's important to still have a collection of metrics, but also to speak directly with who you're trying to reach. I think this is why it's a little bit of science and art still, right, in digital, and then there's changing policy landscape underpinning all of that. So I think being able to go into communities and understand, like, here's the impact, or, yeah, no, I really did see this, or I really do know who that brand is, I think is always a good maybe validation IRL. So continuing to do more of that to complement when we do see some of that loss happen that might be just out of our control because cookie policy is changing or whatever the latest thing is. I will end it there and pass it to you.
So I'm going to say things that I think were your ideas originally that you told me. But I think it comes back to, you know, that point of trust and building partnerships again. Because, you know, I think one of the things we spoke a lot about is, you know, how do we how do we make sure that, you know, there is really good intention, and you know, usually when there is really good intention, that's when you achieve better results. And how do you get there? It's building trust and building deep partnerships, so that things do actually really land. And again, it's one of those things that right now, do we have a shortcut for it? I don't know. And that's probably a good thing, I would say, in some ways. You know, it's something that just really requires time and resources and commitment, and, you know, should be balanced with those quicker wins. But I think those were mostly your ideas.
Oh, I'm so glad. That sounds great. Thank you. Your accent.
One more question? Okay.
Perfect. Hey, I'm Jen Reno from Publicis South Media. I'm up here. I'm tall, so I'm not standing, so I don't block the people behind me. All right, fine. So I talk a lot about the importance of attribution, and I think that when we talk about diverse-owned media, I'm a big believer that diverse consumers are going to take action more likely if they hear authentic voices. And you just talked about it with the podcast ad. I think it's very important. But as we talk about attribution, what work is being done so that we can prove out in the middle of the attribution cycle that these brands are, or that these content partners are really driving success? Because I think that's a part that gets lost, because it always ends up being last touch or first touch attribution, and I think it's just such a path. So I'm wondering what kind of work is being done within your end to help us better attribute success?
Yeah, great question. I'm not as closely attached to the product team, so I will refer you to them. However, I do know there is a ton of work happening. Can I adjust and optimize sort of in the middle of a campaign to perform better? That's one of the key things that we talk to folks about, and one of the benefits of owners coming in and measuring themselves or having access to the tools themselves. We're just continuing to sort of inform that piece of the product development, and especially as sitting on the DE&I team at Nielsen, trying to make sure that when we are building out solutions that we have those kinds of ideas in mind, that we have those kinds of metrics in mind, so that we can help our clients. But again, the product development piece is a little bit out of my out of my depth, so I'll pass the baton.
Do you want to also answer this one? It might
Go
be.
ahead.
Well, I think it goes a little bit back to, you know, how can we support telling some of the stories and bringing more attention. So I can say for us, that's something that we really want to be able to do. I think hearing from things that sound great in numbers, but also are really impactful, even if they, you know, maybe to a big company they sound like something small, but for a publisher it could be like an enormous change in what they're able to see in revenue. And I think, you know, I'm really keen to try and figure out ways to bring more of those stories to the forefront, and you know, we're going to keep, you know, looking for those in the work that we do with Group Black and with additional publisher and publisher groups that we bring on board, because I think there is still this like education storytelling gap as well. And I always think it helps to hear real examples, and, you know, real publishers, real things that, you know, and hearing how it impacts those actual publishers and their businesses specifically.
Yeah, Kerel, I think it goes back to what you said too about we have to get better at telling our success stories.
Yes, absolutely.
So we know that what worked and how we replicate it. So
Right. Sharing and educating the marketplace.
Yeah.
Last question for me. Looking ahead to 2024, give me a measurement theme, something you expect to be big next year from a measurement or a brand safety perspective.
I got a PC answer and a non-PC answer. Because there is a lot of retraction or fear right now, not just in the marketplace, but in policy. And so my personal charge is to continue to push that this isn't just a project or a moment. This is literally the path to winning that just about $2 trillion in black buying power. That we want to be seen and represented. We want to know that there's good business happening with the owners in our community and the media that we're consuming and spending time with. You know, there's some care behind, or some thought and intention and partnership behind doing that business. And so part of my work is to continue to come up with metrics or insights that help inform and encourage people to continue that work. And my personal soapbox is also to understand that when it comes to our community, we're like sort of that last monolith standing, and I really want to bring it down. That the way that you maybe have marketed to Black folks, Black America, the last 10, 20 years won't work going forward, and so the diversity of our diaspora will be essential. So you're not going to get there without really thoughtful partnership and taking a beat and looking at the way that you do business, and I'm excited for some of the research we have coming out to help support that.
Love it.
So I'm in the product policy world, often thinking about brand safety and suitability. So I think that, maybe my answer's a little bit more cautious about a challenge that I think we're going to see. 2024, we're already seeing, the world is really a tough place at the moment, and stories that we're seeing, things that people are going through are really hard and really challenging. And we're going to see a lot of elections across the world, and it's going to be really, I think, a test of, can everyone that has really good intent actually put the time and commitment into finding ways to support publishers through that? And that's going to be, I feel really passionately about that. That's so critical. Diverse media partners, news media partners, 2024 is going to be challenging, I think. And so my team's super committed to figuring out how do we find solutions through that, because, we have to.
Right.
So it's going to take some creativity. But it's an essential challenge. I think it's going to be really important to actually get people to take action and put action behind all of the good intention and all of the goodwill and the good words that we're hearing. And I think 2024 is going to be a test for that.
Gotcha. Thank you. Well, Stephanie, Charlene, thank you very much for joining me. Everyone, give it up for it.
And thanks for the questions. Woo! Awesome. Thank you for remembering what I said.